And they will also be sending out a parent survey. So kind of go ahead and look for that. Most districts last year got very high returns on their parent surveys and far exceeded what was required. But this is a really good way for parents to provide input on special education services in their districts. And that input then is used to develop the monitoring plan. So all of that input goes into where the focus will be for the self-review based on that parent input, as well as any due process and compliance complaints that were found out of compliance.
Now, Joan, I know a couple of years ago, the families I helped out, I know that there was a lot of parents that never got a self-review survey, and there was no district parent input meeting either. And I know Honesty did one, but it was after the fact, after somebody complained because that self-review wasn't being held. Do you know how it's going to the service, how it's going to be distributed?
You can't move on to do your monitoring plan until you do your self-review, until you do your parent input, because you have a requirement to get a certain percentage of responses.
I think you said 10% last time.
It's 20, I
I
believe.
think it's 20%.
No, it's 20?
Yeah, well,
Most of the districts got
when it's my turn
80%.
to add public input, I'll have a few words.
And there's also a requirement, which I haven't seen any recent data on honesty, but if a certain percentage of your student population speaks a language other than English, then you're also required to do a parent input session in that language.
Honesty always has translated.
Okay. Yeah, and the parent survey, the state has translated it into a zillion languages. I mean, they have not just the common ones that, but they have quite a few different languages that the parent survey is available. But you don't have to do a parent input in languages unless you have a certain percent.
Oh, okay.
So
is every district have to give at least 20% of input? Whether
Yes.
it's a survey or a meeting?
between both their parent input session and their parent surveys, they have to have. I haven't seen the new manual for this year hasn't come out, so I don't know the exact percentage. They are required to have that before they can even do their monitoring plan, because that's the information you use. Now, I know that when we were doing it the time before, some of our districts started earlier in the process than others. And so that may be why it looked like Ontario Montclair wasn't doing theirs. And hopefully this year, because we are doing our self-review in the year it's supposed to be in, we will have a more appropriate timeline. But as I recall, there was not a specific timeline for when you had to get your monitoring plan in. Because I know the group that just went, if they got it in before August 30th, CDE inputted it for them. If they didn't, then they had to input their own. But so the state tried to provide some incentives, but didn't have a hard date that it had to be in by. So, but once we get the information, we'll let you know a little bit more. We may even, if you want, we can do a presentation on the self-review process. I don't know, I know Alberto Oriano, who is our state consultant, is planning to come down, and he came down and attended a couple of parent input sessions as well. Yeah, so, he's been very, as long as the state budget holds, he's been very available to us. If he can't travel, he can't travel. Also, as CAC members, you may very likely be asked by your district to participate in a self-review. They do need to have one parent representative on their self-review. It's not a requirement that it's their CAC representative, but very often, because you're the liaison with the district and parents, you would be asked to participate in that. So, And then I know we had a question about paraeducator training here at the WESELPA. And each year our WESELPA has held a Paraeducator Institute, and they're held both in the fall and the spring, so there's opportunities for people to participate in a variety of these sessions. And this year, because in order to change it up and in response to what our districts requested, our Paraeducator Institute is for one-to-one paraeducators or temporary needs, special needs assistants, depending on how your district calls that. And so we're going to start with a fall institute on September 15th, and it's going to take a look at an introduction to what's an IEP plan, the role of the paraeducator, understanding disabilities, as well as behavior, easy as 1, 2, 3. They also will have a council meeting. They're requested to attend on social skills. And then in the fall, we will have 5 additional trainings on topics relevant to students, the work paraeducators would do in a one-to-one setting. So our paraeducators have been really fantastic at signing up. They are held half-day, so many of our districts have hired 3-hour paraeducators, so they very often come on their non-work time. They're such a motivated and eager group. They're always fun to present to because they really, want to know everything they can. And so, we have one session in the morning and then we repeat the session in the afternoon so that as many paraeducators can come as possible.
How will they get the information?
There is a flyer that's available. It's on our website. So there's also some, we have flyers up in our WESELPA office. So
it's sent to the program director.
yeah, and it also goes to the program director. All of our staff development activities are posted on our website. So we're trying to really use that because nowadays that's kind of how people communicate. And also, it makes sure people have the latest information.
That's great.
Because when we send out catalogs in the beginning of the year, by December nobody can find them.
August 15th.
I may have forgotten them. So, so this way, if they kind of get in the habit of looking on the WESELPA website, as well as any parent trainings or any trainings, you might be interested in attending. So,
That's great.
yeah, if you, want to share that information.
Definitely, I will. I'll take the flyers and give them. I know we have a lot of one-on-one aides or paraeducators, what do you want to call them, that they aren't trained in every disability that the children that they're dealing with may have, and they don't know the behaviors of each situation they're going to get into. So I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I know next week we have a lot of staff doing training down in Chino for their paraeducators. They start a little later, and the last month, pretty much, there's been a lot of need for the staff. Most of our program specialists are out in the field doing trainings because as kids change classes, schools, whatever, the people that they're working with may change, and so we're trying to kind of get all of that in place.
And we all know that what works for one child doesn't necessarily work for every child.
No, I mean,
nice to
just
have a
your
broader-
disability doesn't tell you exactly about the child.
Unfortunately. It's not in the manual.
No.
And each child's unique.
So yeah, these institutes are supported by follow-up as well with individual, in their classrooms. So this is kind of a nice way to hit everybody,
Yeah, I love it.
get a basis. So, any other questions or?
Yeah, there's a very, there's a comment that has been C1.
Yes, and I hadn't commented on C1. And thank you, Mr. Outwood, for reading your agenda.